Caroline Dowd-Higgins. Thank you for listening to Your Working Life, my podcast series featuring thought leaders in the career and personal growth arena. You spend a significant portion of your life at work, so I'm on a mission to provide you with tools, inspiration, and resources so you can enjoy your career and love your life. And I am delighted to welcome my special guest to the show today, William Goodspeed. William, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, I'm really excited to talk about your brand new book, Buzzkill, and I want to tell our audience about you. William Goodspeed has held several senior executive positions in various industries and companies, and while working for large companies, he kept his passion of observing behavior. He launched his writing career with The Point, a seasonal Northwestern Michigan parody newspaper with 125 unpaid subscribers. A former resident of Charlotte, North Carolina, he currently lives in Maine and Michigan with his wife, Jen. So, William, let's get right to it. Why Buzzkill? Tell me about what prompted you to write this novel.
Throughout my whole career, I saw many funny things happen almost every day, but it was usually a tension between the fun and creative side of the workforce and the rule-making bureaucratic side, like human resources and legal. And it just led to many stories, and I wrote them down over the years and decided when I had some time to sit down and string it all together in a novel.
Oh, I love it. So in your press release, it talks about Buzzkill as a comedic tale of fun and creativity in bureaucratic corporate America. So why will readers find it funny? Will it be bittersweet to some who are actually living this?
Well, I think it'll just be funny because what I've learned from my readers is they all think it's about their company, and it's not. It's fiction, and I haven't been in every company in the country, but they believe it describes a way of being in corporate America that is funny and sometimes pathetic, but mostly funny. There's not a bitter part of it at all in the book. It's just really good fun, even though there are a couple characters you just love to hate, but they're so extreme. Hopefully, people realize that they don't actually exist.
Well, it is funny. It is laugh out loud funny, and it's also poignant. I think there's so much relatability for all of us in the book. I'd like to ask, though, is there a real Dr. Chen, which is a significant character in the book? And if so, what's he like, and why did you write about him?
There is a Dr. Chen, and he worked for me at a large public company in Maine. He's from Taiwan, and he has a horrible time with the English language, even though he's been in America for maybe 25 years and he's got a doctorate. And in many ways, he inspired the character in the book because of his problems with English, but also his dedication, his just blind dedication to doing good things for the company, and his impatience with anything getting in the way, like rules, for example. So he does exist, and he's honored by the depiction, even though it's an exaggeration. But he's a really good guy.
That's great. And clearly he's read the book.
He has. He's read a few versions of it.
I'm sure. And you credit him, right, in the first line of the special thanks. So how wonderful.
Yes, I do.
You honored him in the book. So
Yes.
I'd love to, without spoiler alerting, right? I know that there are some incredibly useful messages amongst the humor because I've read the book. So can you unpack just a few as an appetite whetter, as a teaser for the audience listening?
Well, the biggest positive message is how empowering people and empowering teams and allowing them to have fun is not only something that makes work more enjoyable, but it leads to dramatically positive work results. And that's something I've seen in my entire career. And it drives a lot of managers crazy because traditional managers are more left-brained, business school types, and they have a hard time understanding how having fun and letting people come up with the solutions leads to better results instead of having a top-down organization. And that's a strong theme throughout the whole book.
Now you've held executive roles in many different companies.
Yes,
Was that part of your leadership philosophy, the work hard, play hard concept?
absolutely yes. It's funny, in my career, I learned this. Uh, at first, I thought a good manager had to be very strict and disciplined. And I tried that in my first major general manager role, and it didn't work very well. And I quickly shifted back to my, I would say, natural self, the way I was in college, and created some of the teams that are described in the book. And I realized very quickly that it was powerful, that people performed really well when they were given responsibility and empowered and credited with success and so on, and had fun along the way. It was very, very powerful.
I love that. And as a career development person, I so appreciate how you really talk about buy-in with teams and empowerment, right? And creating this culture of advocacy. And I think there are some beautiful lessons in the book. So I thank you for that from a career coach's perspective.
Oh, well, great.
So, have you experienced some of these things? For example, some of the human resources situations and the bureaucracy, as I say with wide eyes. I think we've all experienced bureaucracy.
Oh, yes. I've experienced it in every company I've been in, and of course, some of it is necessary, and of course, a lot of it is aggravating. We've probably all faced human resources, which seems to answer to nobody, it, not even the board, and tends to come down very hard on people for things that they view as transgressions, which is often some kind of political incorrectness, and legal, and in some cases, finance and R&D, even new product development, quality control. There are all sorts of control functions in companies that often view themselves as the rule makers and rule enforcers. And I think we've probably all faced some of that in our career, and I've faced plenty.
Absolutely. Is it different now in your role as a writer? Do you feel liberated in a way to have let go of that part of your life?
Oh yes. Well, I still serve on boards of companies, so I have to behave myself somewhat. But yes, I do feel liberated, and it's fun to step back and provide a critique, hopefully a fun critique of corporate America. Not only do I want to entertain people and make them laugh, well, hopefully they are, but I also want to instruct people on how they can perform a lot better. And Dr. Chen and some of his colleagues provide a good way to perform better.
So let's drill down to that. How should leaders inspire their people, and how do we make this happen? You are a leader, so share a bit of wisdom there.
Well, there are a couple really important things leaders should do. One is the leaders have to provide the inspiration and the vision. And a good leader usually has strong ideas on where an organization or a company should go. Hopefully they get input from others in setting the vision, but they have a strong vision, and they have the kind of personality that inspires people to believe that that's the way to go. And they have to do it without force. You can't force people, even in the army. You can't force people to do what you want. You have to inspire them. And then the other thing they've got to do is they've got to let go. They've got to empower people and let them come up with the solutions, because they can't be the smartest person in the room. They're not smarter than the collective whole. And the people closest to the problems and the opportunities usually have the best ideas. And that is a problem with some people's ego, because they want to have all the solutions and all the ideas themselves, but they've got to let that go.
So important. Thank you for saying that. And I think as a leader myself in many of my career situations, I learned so much from the people that I lead, and being open-minded to their great ideas leads to better buy-in and advocacy amongst the team at large. So I really appreciate that. That resonates for me as well. So I'd love to talk about humor, William. I think the book is uproariously funny. It's just literally laugh out loud, which I appreciate. How
Well,
does one
thanks.
incorporate humor and fun into the workplace without crossing a line? I think of
Oh,
some of the more reserved work environments.
yeah. Well, some people think that if something is fun or funny, it must be breaking some rule. But you got to start right there to say, no, it doesn't necessarily break a rule. But the important thing about fun is to recognize how important employees are in a company's success. And it's been proven time and time again that there's a very high correlation between how engaged and happy employees are and how happy the customers are and how happy the shareholders are. It all goes together, and it also goes the other way. Of unhappy employees leads to unhappy customers. And you only have to fly a couple of airlines that I won't mention to realize that correlation. So humor is a good way to make people happier in the workforce. Most people like to be around more lighthearted people, and so that's an important thing. Another thing that humor does is it makes people less afraid of trying things and being innovative. And that's also very important for a company's success, because if it's all disciplined and employees are afraid to make mistakes because they're going to get in trouble, they tend to not perform nearly as well. So humor plays a very, very important role in that too. And then people do, though, have to draw the lines. Obviously, any humor that pokes fun of people's gender, racial background, religion, so on, is going to be inappropriate. Is inappropriate in the workforce. But that should only be a tiny bit of potential humor. There's so much rich humor out there that people can find without, crossing into those protected class areas.
Plus, laughing is good for stress, is it not?
It's fantastic for stress. It's great.
Hey, I want to talk a little bit about employee and employer engagement. I think we're both in agreement that engaged employees are happier and retention rates are better, productivity is higher. I believe that not only does the organization take a role in engaging the employee, but the individual should think about how they can become engaged and not just wait for the boss or the organization at large to engage them. Any thoughts on your end about that?
Well, I think it's true, but I think the boss has to set the tone for, in effect, allowing people to be engaged and to take initiatives. And a lot of people are afraid to take initiative, so they're afraid of being wrong. And what a boss does with other people who are wrong has a lot to do with how people behave in the future.
William, I would love to hear your advice for the disgruntled professional who is dealing with some of the funny scenarios that you so aptly write about in the book that really give them stress and really frustrate them. How can they power through that?
Well, they should read Buzzkill, for one, because
Good plug.
they'll realize that they're not alone. And they could find some humor in it, because, to be honest, it's always going to be there in varying degrees. I do find the best way to deal with it is to talk to the functions or the people involved and try to find a common ground, recognizing that they have legitimate interests, be it human resources or quality control, whatever. And the disgruntled employee also has legitimate interests, which is usually to move the organization forward and innovation or creativity or whatever, and try to find some common ground and get over whatever the hump is in the road.
So, what's next for you? Great novel. Are there others stirring around in your head? What's next?
Well, I've started the sequel to Buzzkill with many of the same characters, and as you get to the end of the book, Buzzkill, there is a big setup for a sequel, and I can't say what's going to happen.
Right?
Can't divulge, but there is a sequel in the works, and I also have some other ideas for novels, but I really fell in love with the cast of characters in Buzzkill and the situation, and I've gotten more and more ideas for political incorrectness gone amok, and how to write a parody of that. And so I'm going to incorporate those things into a sequel, and if I if I have more ideas and more plot lines, I'll do a sequel to the sequel or a prequel.
I think you should consider movies, right? And situation comedy. I could see this very well adapting to the screen.
Well, thank you for saying that. I would love to do it. I actually look at actors out there and I see who I would like to play. Dr. Chen, for example. I just
Yeah.
just just saw a guy in the movie Martian a few days ago, who, even though that was a pretty serious movie, um, a great, by the way, a great example of using humor to relieve stress. But a guy in that movie I thought would be great to play Dr. Chen, and I think about turning it into a screenplay, and I've actually got it out to a couple people in Hollywood, and hopefully I'll get some nibbles.
Good for you. Well, I will wait with bated breath to hear about the screen version, but for now, tell us how we can buy the book.
Well, the best way to buy it is through Amazon. Buzzkill, two words, by William Goodspeed. You can get it hardback, softback, and electronic, and it's also on Barnes and Noble, and that's by far the best way to get it.
Excellent. William, I wish you great success. Thank you for this wonderful, wonderful novel. And let's have you back on when you're ready to talk about the movie or the sequel, whichever comes first.
All right. Well, thanks, Caroline. I really enjoyed it, and I'm clearly in like minds with you.
All righty. And I want to thank our listeners for tuning in to Your Working Life, where my goal is to help you design your career destiny so it doesn't happen by default. True career and life satisfaction is possible, and it's time to embrace what you love doing so you can do more of it. I'm Caroline Dowd-Higgins. Take good care.